Afternoon, everybody. I invite my colleagues, Mr. Anshu Malik, Managing Director of Adani Wilmar, Mr. Akshay Chaudhary, Director of Gemini Edibles, Dr. B.V. Mehta, Executive Director of ACA. Please join us here. So, friends, we have all India very strong panel right now. And let me tell you, after lunch, it's very difficult to concentrate. However, we all should make a proper try because it's going to be a lot of value addition to what these guys speak. They are the best from India. They are the Messis of India vegetable oil industry. So Maradona and Messi. So I would say, first of all, Dr. B.V. Mehta is going to make some small video and then he will speak. And thereafter, Mr. Anshu Malik has a small video and then he will speak. And the Akshay Chaudhary, the youngest of the lot, will speak in the end. So can we show the video which Dr. Mehta has given?
India, the land blessed with most diverse and delicious food palette in the world. And nothing is more sacred in the kitchen than the oil, the ever enticing edible oil. No wonder India currently is world's largest importer of edible oil in the world. The India edible oil market size reached 23.5 million tons in 2023, looking forward to reach 27 million tons by 2027-28. An industry this humongous, it is imperative that the organization looking after its interests is also of epic scale and size. The purpose of the association is to foster the development and growth of the solvent extraction industry, in particular, and the overall development of the vegetable oil industry in the country by using state-of-the-art technology. ITC Geneva United Nations has recognized SEA as the best and successful model association. SEA has become a mentor and a guide for the newer players getting foothold and the seasoned players scaling global benchmarks. SEA has signed a MOU with NOPA, USA, COPA, Canada, ASA, USSEC, USA, Forum, Malaysia, Solidaridad, ITC, Geneva, UN, USPA, Uganda, Tapusa, Tanzania, Indonesian Palm Oil Board, DMSI, APOA, MPOC and MPOB, Malaysia, Ciara, Argentina, and DOPA and PVATM, Sarawak, Malaysia for mutual cooperation. SEA has formed various councils and committees to focus on specific area of vegetable oil industry. This helps raise the important issues and concerns of the industry. SEA Rice Bran Oil Promotion Council, SEA Rapeseed Mustard Promotion Council, SEA Oilseed Development Council, SEA Castor Seed and Oil Promotion Council, and other councils like SEA Technical Committee, SEA Registration of Daily Rates Committee, SEA Domestic Oil Meals Committee, SEA Food Regulatory and Legal Committee, SEA Oilseed Crop Estimate Committee, and other committees like It is important to also highlight the yeoman service done by SEA on the day-to-day basis, proactive and leading from the front. SEA's wide array of services, national and international seminars, webinars, Globe Oil India Conference, daily rates by email, SEA website hosting of members page, Forstack Food Safety, training and certification, SEA Model Castor Farms Project, SEA News Circular and email circulars, SEA Trade Delegations, Crop Survey for Castor, Groundnut and Rape Mustard, SEA Publications, Mission Mustard Model Farms Project. SEA is an ISO 9001-2015 association, and every effort of SEA is an ode to quality and sincerity of the cause of industry and members. Summing up, the association is the guiding light for the Indian vegetable oil industry guiding exporters, assessing international trends in feed ingredients and prices, assisting the trade in quality assurance for inspiring confidence in foreign buyers, ensuring timely and regular shipment performance, providing a strong organizational nucleus, deputing delegations to foreign countries, explore and study export and import markets, organizing and participating in trade fairs, exhibitions and buyer-seller meets in India and abroad, export promotion and market development of de-oiled meals, fats, compound cattle and poultry feed, building a proactive relationship between international suppliers of vegetable oils and Indian importers and refiners. SEA invites people and professionals associated with the vegetable oil industry to join the association as members. Call at 2222822979, 3513 11729, 35131 for further inquiries, or write to us at seaofindia1963@gmail.com. Representing the edible oil industry, setting model farms and business models, SEA marches on with the mission of contributing to the Indian vegetable oil industry and trade.
Friends, this was a very nice video by our premier association, Solvent Extractor Association of India. Dr. Mehta is the Executive Director of the association, and Mr. Ajay Jhunjhunwala is the President. Mr. Jhunjhunwala is here. I would just request him to rise. Thank you, Ajay. Now, Dr. Mehta, waiting for your presentation, please.
Thank you, sir. I try to read. Bengas, traders, good afternoon. Let me first, at the outset, thank Sierra and International Sunflower Association for inviting me to share my thoughts with the mover and shaker of the interstate trade on topic of India's consumption and import demand for edible oil with special reference to soya and sunflower oil. I'm happy to be here once again. This is my 5th trip to Argentina, and always I love to come here to meet my old friends and also make the new friends, yeah. So, of course, already you've seen my video of the SCA. Only let me tell you one thing. United Nations, ITC Geneva, they conducted 3 years back a study, model study, which is a best association. And they said SCA is one of the best association, model association, as per their standards, yeah. So that was a recognized given to SCA by the ITC Geneva UN. Now, let me start with the overview of the Indian economy. As many of you know, India is the red bright spot among the emerging economies, which were hit by, where the others were hit by the spike in food and fuel price in the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. IMF has projected India's growth for the 2020-23 at 6.9%. I think is one of the highest in the world today. India has become the world's 5th largest economy, surpassing United Kingdom, which ruled India for nearly 2 centuries. And currently, Mr. Rishi Sunak, there is a person of Indian origin, he is the Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister of UK. Similarly, Ms. Kamala Harris, she is also PIO, and now she is the Vice President of USA. And thirdly, Ireland, the Prime Minister is also of the PIO of India, Mr. Varadkar. He is also, and also is belong to the my states, yeah. India's current GDP is around 3.46 trillion, and the way is growing within the 5 years, India could be the world's 3rd biggest economy, and within 2 decades, India would be the number 2 in the world. That is what is projected, and the way the India is growing today with the highest GDP, you won't be surprised to see India as a number 3 in the next 5 years. Yeah. India's annual inflation during 2022 was 5.9%. When I'm hearing on this part of the world about inflation, India is nowhere. 5.9% in 5.9% in 21, 5.1% compared to 6.6% in 2020. Though food inflation is slightly higher and a cause of concern to the Indian policy makers here. India is self-sufficient in rice, wheat, sugar, and many other food commodities except the edible oil. Vegetable inflation, however, is worrying to the policy maker. Since the last 2 years, we have seen how the price has gone up, and India had to spend nearly $20 billion for import of edible oil, the cause of concern to the Indian government. The forex reserve, you'll surprise here. When I wrote this paper a few days back, India's reserve of $561 billion, and 3 weeks, now is $572 billion. $12 billion has increased in the last 15 days here. That's the growth of the Indian economy. Now let us look at the agriculture sector. Agriculture is a lifeline of the Indian economy. Share of agriculture and allied industries in India, GDP is about 20%, but nearly 50% of the population depend on the agriculture. For the year 2022, the agriculture GDP growth is projected to be about 3.9%. Indian agriculture reports during 21-22 increased by 20% to, export. India's agriculture export during 21-22 increased by 20% to a record high at $50 billion, representing 12% of the total export by India. India is the world's largest exporter of rice, buffalo meat, and of course, sugar also. Now let us look at the next slide. This is a map of India, and in the nutshell, I would like to tell you what we are. India grows various types of oilseeds over 29 million hectares of land, depending on the climatic condition and respective locations here. India was fortunate to have the normal rain in the last 4 years. An average production of oilseed is estimated around 30 million tons, apart from 11 million tons of cotton seed and 500,000 tons of the copra. During 22-23, the rainfall was above normal at 106%, which greatly benefited the agriculture sector to have a normal crop. The total turnover of the vegetable industry is estimated at $35 billion, employing about 1 million people, apart from 20 million farmers growing oilseeds, nearly 30% of the total farming community of 150 million farmers in India. Now let us look at where India stands in the world. Let us look at here. This is a very important chart here. World production of 10 major oilseeds during 21-22 estimated at 580 million ton, and for the year 22-23, the forecast is about 603 million ton. For the year 21-22, India production of 10 major oilseeds was about 40.8 million tons, that is 7% of the world production. Now let us look at the next slide. The world production of 7 major oils and the fats. India's current production of major oils and the fats is about 11.7 million ton, 10% of the world of 17 oils and fat production of 243 million ton. And forecasted for the current year, it will be 251 million ton. Now let us look at slightly the biodiesel. World production of biodiesel for the year 2022 is about 51 million compared to 48 million tons the previous year. But for the current year, the biodiesel products are likely to go up to 55 million ton. In India, the input cost is too high. The India is hardly producing any biodiesel at the moment. Now let us look at the current consumption of edible oil in India. India consumes varieties of oils, either local produce or imported one. Palm oil consumption accounts for nearly 33% of the total consumption of edible oil out of 23.8 or say 24 million ton, followed by soya oil at 24%, rape mustard oil is 15%, and sunflower oil at 8%. Palm oil is most popular oil, in particular in hospitality, restaurants, and catering segment. We call HoReCa segment. While the mustard oil, or what you know as the rapeseed oil, is popularly known in India as the Kachi Ghani, is in demand, and the entire northern and in eastern part of the India prefer the rape or mustard oil. Soybean oil is mainly consumed in the central part of India, particularly the Maharashtra and MP. Sunflower oil, palm oil, and coconut oil are preferred in the southern India. Another area, the rice bran oil. India produces about 1 million tons of rice bran oil. It's the most popular health oil. Similarly, India also produces about 1.2 million tons of the cottonseed oil. It's a very good oil for frying property. So we have the varieties of oil: soybean, palm, mustard, coconut, rice. So nearly about 10 oils we consume in the country. India during 21-22 produced about 1.5 million tons of soybean oil, while imported 4.1 million ton. The record quantity of import that was happened last year, the total consumption of soybean oil in the country is about 5.7 million tons, representing about 24% of the total consumption. Now let me talk about the sunflower. The conference is for sunflower. Sunflower oil is very well accepted by the housewife in India due to its golden color. And of course, yesterday also we discussed with us, some of you here a member, about the quality part also. India prefer golden color. Even housewife, when she buys sunflower oil, she look at the color. If the color is a golden, she feels that it's a pure oil. So what we need is a pure sunflower oil with a golden color. India total production is very meager, hardly produce about less than 100,000 tons of sunflower oil. But sunflower oil is a very well preferred oil, and we import about 2 million plus oil every year. Last year, because of the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine, the supply was disturbed. Government was worried how to maintain the supply chain for the sunflower oil. Thanks to the Argentina, we could manage the supply chain very well. And once again, we thank Argentina for their increased supply when we had a lesser supply from the Ukraine. Now let us look at edible oil consumption. What is the long-term projections? Edible oil consumption in 22-23 projected at 23.8 million ton. However, during 2021 and 21-22, due to Corona and the high price, squeezed the demand by about 1 to 1.5 million ton. But now, Indians are filling up the backlog and celebrating the festival and wedding with the full force. If you happen to be in India for any wedding, normally you find 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people for the marriage. We never, where here I'm asking some friends here, is in the marriage we have 100 or 200 people maximum here. That's the difference here. Since the business and civic life is nearly normal and the growth is back on track, I'm expecting the consumption growth between 2 to 3% in the next 5 years. I'm a little conservative. It can go up, but I'm a little bit conservative to 2 to 3% in the next 5 years. With the assumed growth, the demand for edible oil is estimated to be about 28 million tons by 27-28. India also consumes milk fat like ghee and butter in sizable quantity, and about 1 million tons is being used for non-edible purpose, which I have not accounted in my slides here. This is a very interesting slide, last 20 years slides. To bridge the gap between the supply and demand, India started to import since 1990. In the initial period, the import volume was very low, but in the last 20 years, import volume has increased by 2.8 times, while the cost, mind well, where the cost of import has gone up by nearly 22 times. The massive outgo of forex of US dollar 15 to 20 billion is now prompting the policy maker to find the solution to check the rising import or rather than curtail the import. Oilseed production in India is more or less stagnant. In the last few years, while with the economic growth and per capita consumption is rising year by year, and so the quantum of import is rising. In fact, in 2018-19, India imported the highest quantity of edible oil to the tune of 14.9 million tons. However, during 1920 and 2021, import volume reduced to about 13 million tons, mainly due to higher domestic production and same time lower demand due to corona and also high price led to demand destruction. In the year ended October 22, that's last year's, the demand has revised with the diminishing of corona and decline in price in edible oil. Import during 21-22, ending October 22, reported at 14 million ton. In the current oil year, starting from November 22, we consider the oil year, November, October is the oil year. Starting from November 22 up to February 23, that is a 4 month, India has imported record quantity of edible oil, 5.8 million tons compared to 4.6 million tons in the same period of the last years. Now let us look at which are the oil being imported, mainly the palm versus soft oil. Palm oil import constitutes nearly 60% of the import, while the soft oil, that's mainly soya and sun, represent nearly 40% share in the Indian market. In the first 4 months of the current oil year, 2022-23, India imported record quantity of palm oil as spread between the soft oil. The palm oil was nearly $300 to $400 during first quarter of the year, which prompted the larger imports of palm from the Indonesia and Malaysia. However, now the situation has changed as the spread reduced to less than $100, attracting the larger import of soft oil. In fact, last 1 week, when I wrote this paper, the sunflower oil CI price and the RBD palmolene price was the same in India. As I said earlier, India sourced the palm oil from the Indonesia, Malaysia, and now also Thailand is supplying good quantity to India. While so far, sunflower oil is concerned, earlier the major supplier was Ukraine, followed by Russia and the Argentina. But due to war between Russia and Ukraine, we had a lesser supply from the Ukraine, but the gap was bridged by additional supply from the Russia as well as from the Argentina. In case of soybean, the major suppliers is of course your country, followed by Brazil and USA. And the last 1.5 years, we started buying some quantity from the US also. Many people are asking why the Indian government changes the duty frequently. It's happened with every government. Government of India, during June 21 to May 22, when the prices were going up and up, reduced the import duty from time to time to provide relief to the domestic consumer. However, the last few months, oilseed price declined sharply in the domestic market. Last summer, India harvested 12 million tons of soybean, about 8 million tons of groundnut, and now we are in the winter, we are harvesting about 11 to 12 million tons of the rapeseed, or what we call the mustard seed. During the last 2 years, government was trying to lower the impact of the higher vegetable price on consumer. However, with the fall in the international price, particularly the last 6 months, the local price of oilseed are also below minimum support price. Minimum support price is an assurance given by the government to the farmer that in case the price fall below that level, government will step in and buy at that price. Yeah. Currently, the mustard or rapeseed price is below MSP. That's the cause of concern to the government of India, how to support the farmer. And I won't be surprised, the government of India may consider to raise the import duty in the near future to support the rapeseed farmer. Currently, the effective duty on CPO, sunflower oil, and also soybean oil, crude, is of 5.5% only. So there's a chances that government may revise upward in near future. As I said earlier, the last 4 months, India imported a record quantity of the oil, and that too in the peak crushing season of the country. We are holding about 3.4 million tons of the stocks as on day, which was, if you compare to the last February or March, it was 1.8 million tons. So practically, the stocks have doubled, and that's also bringing the pressure on the domestic prices here. Of course, this is a price chart. Everybody knows how the price has fallen in the last few months. I'll go to next slide before Mr. Bajore asked me to step down. Now, question is, can India meet the growing demand? As I said in the morning also, India needs at least 1 million ton extra every year to feed the new mouth, and also the per capita consumption is rising since the per capita income is rising in the country. In particular, the middle class, which constitutes nearly 50% of the population, their income is rising very fast. And when their income rises, their focus is food, shelter, and clothes. And you cannot eat food without oil. So demand for oil is rising every year, 1 million or 1 to 5 million tons. So it means equivalent to about, we must produce additional 3 to 4 million tons of oil seed every year. Otherwise, our dependence on the import is bound to go up in the near future. Against India's consumption or demand for vegetable oil would be, which I projected about 27 million ton by 25-26. This gap of about 12, 13 or 14 million is expected to be bridged through the import. However, import may be higher if the target which is government is planning to produce about 40 million tons by 25-26 of the oilseeds. If that is not achieved, the import will be much higher, maybe on the range of 13 to 15 million tons per annum. Now let us look at how much we are going to import during the current year. In 21-22, ending October 22, India imported 40 million tons. In the current year, that is 2022 to 23, import would be in the range of 14 to 14.5 million ton due to increase in population, fast rising per capita income, consumption, and also urbanizations pushing the demand. More and more people from the villages moving to the urban city, and the consumption is rising fast. The quantum and type of oil import will depend on the price parity. As I said earlier, 4 months back, it was a palm was preferred. Now the gap has reduced, so naturally soft oil will be preferred by India.
Dr. Mehta, can we hurry up?
Yeah, I'm coming to last, I know. So let me summarize. India received a normal rain during the last 4 years, very beneficial for oilseed production. In the recent months, the decline in international price compared with the lower Indonesian export duty or null duty in the first quarter of 22-23 pushed the import of palm products from Indonesia and Malaysia. In India, current edible oil consumption is about 23.5 to 24 million tons. Since the 2 to 3% growth per annum, by 2026, we may need 26 or 27 million ton, subject to expected local production, the rise to 13 to 14 million ton. Indian government also focusing on increasing the domestic production of palm oil, aiming to produce about 1 million ton of palm oil by 25-26 and about 1.8 million ton by 29-30 to meet the growing demand. Lastly, I'll once again thank the Argentina for supplying the sunflower oil, and now your market has developed in India. However, there are certain issues about the sunflower oil quality, particularly the high quantity of the wax and the gums in the sunflower which you are supplying to India. And of course, you are also being discounted by $25 to $30 against the Ukraine. So you have to address that issue, how to reduce the gum and wax is here. And also in the case of soybean, we find many times chlorophyll is very high. That also, you have to see that chlorophyll content is reduced so that there are more chances India buy more quantity from you. Now lastly, my special thanks to Sierra and my friend Gustavo, President Sierra, for inviting me to present my view on this International Sunflower Seed and Oil Conference. Muchas gracias. Esperamos en India. Thank you very much. I must also thank Ms. Kerwin and Claudia translating my speech into English to the Spanish. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Dr. Mehta. Thank you, Dr. Mehta. Dr. Mehta is encyclopedia of information. So his speech presentation will be available. Organizers will give the presentation to everybody. So it's full of data and statistics. Now, friends, we have a very important person with us. Mr. Angshu Malik is the Managing Director of Adani Wilmar. Adani Wilmar is the largest processor of vegetable oil in the country. And we are changing the order. We are putting the Angshu Malik before. Acha, is already setting kya hua hai? All right, so we go as per the original plan itself, and then Mr. Akshay Chaudhary. We'll go. Okay, so Mr. Akshay Chaudhary is the director of the Gemini Edible Oil and Fats Limited in India. He comes from Hyderabad city. He's the youngest industrialist to be amongst with us. And Gemini is the largest buyer of sunflower oil in India. They have a very big brand called Freedom. And Mr. Akshay is going to enlighten us about sunflower oil market in India. Mr. Akshay, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep Bhai. So, a very big thank you to our host, Ciara and Asagir, and also to the International Sunflower Oil Association. It is an honor for me to be here at this gathering among various distinguished people from the world of vegetable oils. It is also wonderful for me to be here in the land of Messi and Maradona, right? I've watched a lot of footage of Maradona, his exploits in the 1986 World Cup, and also we're here right after his successor Messi has won the 2022 World Cup. But of course, there are 45 million Argentinians who are experts in football, so we'll leave that to them. I'm here to talk about the sunflower oil market in India, so I shall get on with my presentation. I have only about 15 minutes, I believe. So if you could move to the, or shall I just use this? Yeah. Okay. So India's consumption, as you can see, and Dr. Mehta has already spoken about it, is growing from a high base. We're growing at about 4% per annum. But I just wanted to highlight the macro number that the imports are stagnant. As you can see from this slide, they have been stagnant for some time, and the domestic oil availability has doubled. So of course, we are in an era of higher inflation, in an era of domestic protectionism. So the government of India is also very concerned about our own dependence on the world for vegetable oils and are trying to increase the domestic oil availability. So that focus is there. Maybe 5 years down the line, we will be at a ratio of 50-50 for domestic to imports, or maybe even higher share for domestic in the overall vegetable oil consumption. Well, as you can see in the sunflower oil imports, there was a drop in 2 years, and these are oil years that I'm talking about, November to October. So there was a drop in imports to about 1.9 million tons in 2021 and 22. That's obviously because of the high prices, and then due to the Russia-Ukraine war, there was lower availability of sun oil itself. But I keep getting asked this question, and my counterparts from the veg oil industry in India keep getting asked this question: what is India's core demand for sun oil? And I think these last 2 years have borne out with these very high prices, the high delta to bean oil. We've imported 2 million tons approx of sun oil. So we can, I think, confidently say that about 2 million tons as of today is India's core demand of sun oil. I just put this slide in, the world exports of sun oil and the percentage share of exports overall. So as you can see, the percentage share of exports to production has gone from 50% to a minimum of 55%, in some years even higher. So that obviously shows the reason why the spread of sun oil to soybean oil has come down in the last few years. Earlier it used to be the delta was $200 to $300 per ton, but it's been in fact even flat for quite a few years. And I've put this slide in to showcase the importance of India, of course, in the world's sunflower oil trade. As you can see, we are about 20% of the global trade, or the import or export, whatever way you want to look at it, of sunflower oil. And this year, imports of sunflower oil, as other speakers have also mentioned, will rebound to about 2.5 million tons, thanks to the prices coming down and the gap with the bean oil reducing. Right? Because the housewife in India, as Dr. Mehta also said, she's controlling the kitchen, and she likes the oil to be very light, very clear, and sun oil with its neutral taste also appeals to her, especially in the southern part of India. So the important thing here is that the sunflower oil core demand, as we go along, because sunflower oil is, because of this easy acceptability and stickiness, is forecast to grow at about 8% per annum for the next 5 years. So our core demand of sunflower oil 5 years later could be 3.5 million tons. We could reach that level sooner, of course, if it remains very well priced versus other oils. But as a core demand, we could be at 3.5 million tons 5 years down the line. So, and of course, on the domestic side, so maybe that will not be 3.5 million tons of imports. That could be, maybe we might have 300, 400,000 tons of domestic production after 5 years. Let's see. This slide shows you the average prices of sun oil versus soy oil on a CIF basis in India. So, of course, when the spread is flat, in those 2 years, 2018-19 and 2019-20, we had 2.5 million tons of import, went down due to the higher prices and the supply issues. And again, this year, when the spread is flat, we are forecast to go back to 2.5 million tons. So moving on to just the market in India, the branded market, the packaged market, is forecast to grow at very high single-digit growth rates for different oils. Sunflower oil, you will notice, is forecast to grow at 8% for the reasons we've discussed. And this pie chart shows you the regional consumption of sunflower oil. Actually, I should have put in a map of India, I'm sorry. But, if you can imagine the Indian peninsula, it is the southern part mostly, and the states of Maharashtra and Odisha. So these combine contribute about 85% of India's sunflower oil consumption. These are 6 states only out of 28 states in the country. But these are with a population of 450 million people. So it's obviously a massive, massive market. Okay, now this slide is very important. So especially if our suppliers present here and the other members of the trade can pay attention. Quality. It is extremely important in sunflower oil. The quality of the oil that we receive, the crude oil, decides the output that we give to the consumer. Acetone insoluble, which is the gums and waxes. Bleachability, which is your ability to reduce color. And of course, the FFA. Now, this is all pre-war general data which I'm giving you from what we have received. The Ukrainian quality is no doubt the best, with the average AF of 0.3 to 0.4%, and on the other end of the spectrum is the Argentine at 0.6 to 0.8%. And the bleachability as well, Ukraine is very good. A minimum of 60 is what we need. But the Argentine on that side ranges could be as low as 50% to 60%. If you're at 50%, you're not even actually able to reduce the color. We have to start blending it, using it with better oil, and there is more bleaching earth consumption. So there are more losses. And the FFA, of course. So there are certain things which, we had some discussions with Ciara yesterday. There are some things which are not in your hands. The nature or the way the environment is or the climate is impacts maybe the FFA in the seeds and how long you store it. But if the suppliers in Argentina bottom out all their tanks and put all the gums and waxes, because naturally the oil has a little higher gums and waxes, they bottom it out. If there are more sediments, gums and waxes, that is not good for us. That does not give us the comfort to comfortably import. Like today from a Ukrainian company or a Ukrainian oil, I can blindly go and book a cargo, but from an Argentinian, my suppliers will know. I will talk to them 5 times about the quality. So that is very important if Argentina can do something. And I understand, I believe dehulling of the seed, which perhaps in Ukraine is done for 100% of the oil and not necessarily over here, is one solution, because the hulls contain a lot of gums and waxes. So, excuse us for talking about this a lot, but this is very important. Once Ukraine is back fully up and running, and Russia's crop is increasing as well. I mean, Igor was speaking about how much more crop is going to come out, supply is going to come out. Argentina may find it more difficult and may have to discount further to market their oil. And this next slide just gives you, this is for 11 months from April 22 to February 23. This is just a list of the top 10 importers and exporters or charterers to India for sunflower oil. And as you can see, around 77%, almost 80% of India's imports are by the top 10 players in this period. And even higher, in fact, the exporter share is more than 90% among the top 10. So it appears to be a very concentrated market, but it is still highly competitive, I can assure you that. We are all fighting for our market shares. And well, finally, I thought we'll go with the latest buzz in today's times, ChatGPT. So I typed into ChatGPT about the sunflower oil market in India, and it came up with a reasonably accurate response. So India is one of the largest producers, consumers of edible oils in the world. Sunflower oil is popular choice due to high smoke point and neutral flavor. Market has been growing steadily, driven by factors like increasing health consciousness and increasing urbanization. So that is there. I can assure you, sunflower oil in India is a relatively fast-growing segment, and how much ever Argentina can produce and focus on increasing their production of sunflower oil, India will happily take it. So I'm not going to give any price forecast. I've left that to the global players. But the future for sunflower oil in India is very rosy. And also, I'd like to thank Sandeep Bhai and his team at Sunwind for providing me all the data for the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Akshay. I think now, Akshay, after your speech loaded on the internet, ChatGPT will be more smarter on sunflower oil. So that is pretty interesting. I think everybody is driven crazy by ChatGPT version 4. Yes, Prem? Yes. So maybe so many jobs could be out of the... but I think you can use it intelligently to enhance your productivity. That's what I believe. So Akshay, it was a fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. And he's the man who drinks, eats, and sleeps sunflower oil. I can tell you. Now we have a very strong personality, the MD of Adani Wilmar, which is the largest processor of veg oil in India, importer and processor. Mr. Angshu Malik is a very strong personality in the brand building. He has built earlier Dhara brand and now Fortune brand. And Fortune is one of the largest selling brand in India. And Mr. Angshu Malik is a wealth of knowledge. So let's hear Mr. Angshu Malik.
Thank you.
Some videos to be played.
Instead of, I will be talking about the consumer because I understand that she is going to be the most important decision maker. Whether you want to sell sunflower oil or palm oil or soybean, it is she who will decide. And I always believe to look at her and then find an answer. I'll just play a small video to showcase how India is progressing, because that is very important for you, because 50% of your business, if it comes from India, then you must know India more than anybody else. And why India is important to you, that also is very important. So I have just put a small video to showcase what is India, and then I will take you through India. Once you understand India, you can decide which oil to sell, because you are lucky to have both the oils with you. this is what invest in India. This is what we are talking to the globe. What is India going to be? Taking from here, we'll move ahead. India emerging as one of the fastest growing economy in the world, as you have seen earlier. 6.9% what they are saying, but if this is continuing for the next 5 years, it is going to change the way we see India today, surely. Most populous nation today, it has outbeaten China, 1.412 billion. In 70s and 80s, it was considered a liability. Today, it is an asset. And that asset is the biggest asset which is driving India's domestic consumption. Total FDIs in India has been far, far more than what we have seen. I understand almost $7 trillion has been invested in the last 7 years in infrastructure. Next $7 trillion is coming in next 5 years for the infrastructure. Percentage of female students going to college has increased more than men. That is one of the most significant change that is happening. More number of girls are now going to education for higher education and colleges. If you see the consumer spending over the last 15 years, 2014 onwards till 2022, at an average CAGR of 7.5% per annum, increase in consumer spending is a very big story in terms of consumption. And that is going to drive consumption of many things, which includes food, electronics, smartphones, white goods, and all the necessities that any consumer would like to have. India food processing industry is the third largest in the world. It is one of the biggest contributor to the Indian GDP. Agriculture provides around 23-24%, Sandeep ji, to the GDP. But food processing industry is providing around 13 to 14% to our GDP. 2025, by 2025, India will be $500 billion in terms of consumption in food processing industry. Household consumption will become threefold in the next 5 years. Now that is going to be a very big change that we will see in India. Riding on the digital uptake, you have seen how the digital India is going ahead and how consumers have adopted to digital. More number of females getting into it, and India is progressing fast. I think it is second largest, of course, the smartphone users, but of course, one of the fastest growing internet users in the world. Now let's get into edible oil. What is happening in the edible oil scenario? Edible oil per capita consumption continues to remain low at around 16.5, 17 per head. But if you see the neighboring countries like Pakistan or China or Bangladesh, they are higher. In India, almost 40% of the people buy edible oil basis rupee value. They don't buy on quantity. They go to the market and they pay, say, 5,000 or 500 peso, and they will get whatever oil they can, because they can't afford to buy on liter or metric ton or kilo basis. They buy on rupee because they are daily wage earners. Now that the oil prices are coming down, their consumption is growing fast, very fast, because their ability to spend remains, even if it is same, they are getting almost 40%, 50% more oil to consume. And for these poor people, oil and chili are one of the most important ingredient of food. So oil becomes very important for them. That is what you will find them. Two big states in India, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, put together controls 25% of population, has average 10 to 11 kilo per head, because their per capita income is half of the nation. These two states are doing very well. Uttar Pradesh is growing very, very fast. And I am sure in the next 3 to 5 years, it will be fully grown, developed like any other parts of the nation. And if this part consumes 17 kilo per head or 18 kilo per head, you can understand the per capita consumption of India growing at around 19 or 20 kilo per head. I personally see that going forward, 7% rate of growth should not be a very challenging factor for edible oil consumption. 1.25% is population growth and 5 to 6% is consumption growth. Put together 6.5 to 7% growth, I am sure this will add to the overall requirement of edible oil. B.V. Mehta ji was saying that India will produce a lot of oil domestically. That is good if that happens, but it doesn't look like it will happen like that. 500,000 ton if we can add every year consistently, it will be a good job. Balance almost 1 million ton will have to be imported. And the way we will consume, we will surpass our neighboring countries very fast. And that is what we all look at. The Indian edible oil processors are very confident that we are ready to handle such large refining if that day comes to. Interesting point that I am talking now from consumer point of view. There is a research agency, IMRB, which only studies consumption at household. They track rural, they track urban, they track poor, they track rich. Any household in India, they track basis the sample. So household consumption is very important for us to understand what people are consuming at home. If you see this, 49% of the consumers were buying soybean oil at home, which reduced to 47%, and then last 2 years, it has grown up mostly because of sunflower oil prices going up. So affordability of sunflower coming down, soybean going up. So today, almost 51% of the households in India buy soybean oil. Now, please understand, in India, every house buys 2 types of oil. They buy one refined oil and they will buy one taste oil. The taste oil is mostly mustard oil, groundnut oil, sesame seed oil, coconut oil, or even olive oil. So that is one oil which will always be there in the house to prepare some dishes which are supposed to be done by that. And second, there is a refined oil which is required. So every house will have 2 types of oil. 51% of the house in India consumes soybean oil. If you take the same for sunflower, it's 24%. So growth rate of these 2 oils will always be more. But when 51% of the house consumes soybean oil, and if they start consuming even 1 liter more per household, then one can imagine there are 320 million households in the country. So one can imagine what kind of volumes one can look at once the consumer starts getting money. If you see the volume of oil that is consumed in the house, that is, if 100 tons of oil is consumed in the house, then 27 tons comes from soybean oil. In the house I am talking, not outside the house, I am saying inside the house. Outside the house is mostly palm. Inside the house is mostly soybean oil, sunflower oil, rice bran oil, mustard oil. These are the oil which is consumed in-house. From the basket of edible oil, everybody has spoken about it. So we have an equal share of all the oils. And mustard is growing. That is most important because Government of India is focusing more on mustard. And it will continue to grow. But it has a limit unless we shift from wheat to mustard. So that is an important thing that we have to see how the government shapes it. I'll just talk about some of the trends of the consumers that is happening. So you will find them, basically education is going up. As education goes up, health consciousness goes up. Same is women's education. When it goes up, women get into job. More and more women comes into job. They have more decision-making powers. They have more purchase power. So they decide which brand of oil to buy or which brand of clothes to buy for the family. So they have much bigger purchasing power as well as purchasing decisions in the house. Summing it up, most important points for India is 1.4 billion population growing at 1.2% per annum. youngest population in the world at 28.7, 2047, that is after 25 years, India will be average age 37 years, still the lowest in the world. So one can understand that if a population of 28 years to 30 years is in the country average population, consumption will have to happen. $2,100 per capita income in 5 years, it is going to grow to around 4,000. And that is the time when consumptions explode. That is what we have been told. Same has happened in China, where when the per capita consumption grows around 3,500 and above, the consumption just shoots up. And consumption happens because people have more money in their hand. So one thing to watch is how India's GDP grows, how the population becomes more and more conscious about oil. Once they become conscious, they become more health conscious. So sunflower oil and soybean oil are the oil that they prefer over palm. That is what we have seen in India. So I think India has a great story. You as a partner can become a great associates because you depend on India, we depend on you. We all can work together and grow this business wonderfully for benefit of all the people, all the farmers, both sides, people, consumers, nation, everything. We must be positive on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Malik. He's one of the very strong believers and supporter of India's story. That's why you saw that very encouraging video in the beginning. But friends, let me tell you, that video is not a fiction, it's a fact. And I invite all of you, please do visit India. Whenever you decide, please you email us in the association and we will be your host. We'll take care, we will showcase you what India is and we will love to have you in India. So as Mr. Malik said, that we need you and you need us. I think there's a great amount of win-win situation for both the countries to work together and make more and bigger milestones. So thank you very much and please give a big hand to all the panelists. We'll just take one picture together. One picture.
El agradecimiento por la participación de Beba Mehta, Akshay Chaudhry, Anshu Malik y Sandeep Bajoria, aquí en la cuarta Conferencia Internacional de Semillas y Aceites de Girasol, Argentina 2023. Los invitamos a hacer una nueva pausa, 30 minutos. A las 16:20 nos reencontramos aquí en el auditorio para el último panel de esta primera jornada. Los esperamos.